you touched on it. And you gave us a snippet about looking out for obviously the pricing factor. What other risks should purchasers look out for when buying off-plan real estate in Dubai?
Yeah, so as I touched on, there's a lot of developers in Dubai.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are very, very good. Very, very good. But also a lot of them are 50-50, the polite way of saying it. So I would say think about the brand name of the developer and make sure their track record stacks up. And the other thing as well, which is very, very different to us being in the UK, where I would like to say, we're a bit more professional, we're a bit more specific when we're advising investors.
Yeah.
And that is actually across the board with the developers in the UK as well. They're generally more accurate with their delivery dates. A big shock you'll find here is having a development 3 to 6 months late is not uncommon.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not uncommon at all. So a big difference, or something in terms of your question, what investors want to look out for, is just to be aware that if your product is due Q4 24, that's more than likely going to roll over to 25.
Yeah.
So our job as consultants is to warn everyone, advise everyone, let them know the score, and then they can make that decision. But that's a big difference. So picking the right brand name and getting a good product finish, and just being aware of the timeframes and delivery, that's a big factor. One reason behind that, and sometimes why developers are not as quick or as efficient as they should be, is that by the governing body RERA, who I mentioned earlier, they have a 12-month allowance post-completion, effectively like a long stop date in the UK.
Yeah.
So they have that allowance, and so they can just fundamentally delay if they want.
Yeah.
So there are a couple of things that I'd look out for. In general, you are a little bit more protected. In recent years, Dubai they've added a bit more red tape. So they are using escrow accounts. So a lot of the developers, investors funds, are secured and ring fenced in a third party account, which
good.
I'm sure you guys would love to have in the UK.
Yeah.
Sure. So we don't have solicitors here, but we have escrow accounts,
Yeah,
which is a big one. There's a couple of things that I look out for, but overall, if you're picking a big brand name, you've got a good agent, and it's all stacks up, you're going to be fine investing off plan.
I was going to say to you, Nick, as well, obviously, we know sometimes in the UK, when investors are paying funds into an off-plan development, sometimes it can be utilised to the build, as we said. Obviously, some of the funds, is that with the escrow account there, is that the whole funds that an investor would put in, or is that partly accessible for the developer to dip into?
Yeah, I believe it is partly accessible.
Okay.
I think it would vary depending on the amounts.
Yes.
So I would like to check that. What I would say though is there are stipulations around when a developer can start selling a scheme as well. So I believe they either require 50% of the construction costs ready to go in an escrow account for the build, or they have to have delivered 50% of the scheme before they can start selling. I think that first part is true, but either way, there is definitely restrictions around building and when you can start selling, etc., etc. So I think that gives a good layer of credibility and a bit of reassurance. But I do believe some capital is allowed to be used for the build.